everyone, Madeline Dell here, the Chapter Goddess. I am a mom, author, blogger, freelancer, podcaster, producer, and overall creative. With this show, I really want to focus on creatives and bring their authentic self to life. How are they motivated to pursue their passions? What have been the struggles along the way? Does self-care play an important role in who they are today and how they connect with the creative flow? Bringing one's authentic self to the forefront is important in this world that we live in currently. Sharing your self-care, your tips, and how you stay on track for things without losing it completely is also important. Self-care is not talked about enough, and authenticity and self-care are what I like to highlight with my creatives, as well as getting to know them. So get ready for a fun and entertaining show. Hit the like button, subscribe if you haven't already, and let's get ready to meet this episode's guest. Hey everyone, and happy Wednesday. It does not feel like a Wednesday for me. I was at Writers Con / Readers Con all Labor Day weekend, and it ended Monday night, and it was a wonderful experience. I'll have updates more later, especially in my newsletter. If you haven't subscribed to my newsletter, you can do that through my website, thechaptergoddess.com. But I am here today to bring you guys a new author to check out with some amazing books out there. We're going to have a good chat. We're both fiction authors, and I'm ready to dive into his brain and see what his writing life is like. But without further ado, let me bring him in and allow him to introduce himself. Hey.
Hi, everybody. I am J.K. Strife, author, artist, gamer. I am a prolific author of different genres: horror, sci-fi, fantasy, dark fantasy, etc. I've got a few published books, more on the way. But I just love to write. Got a lot of books coming and a lot of books in the pipeline.
Yes, the creativity never ends. I love that as a creative, for most of us, a lot of those ideas, they just come and keep coming. It's like you can't get them out fast enough, which makes me kind of ask you, you said you've got a lot of stuff in the pipeline, coming down the pipeline. What is your writing routine like? Do you have a set routine?
So what I do is at first I outline a book completely. I always outline it like 40 chapters. I get pretty detailed with the outline, like summaries of all the chapters, and then I'll sit down, write like one chapter a day. Usually just straight 40 days in a row, and that's the book. And then I put it in a drawer, so to speak, and come back to it in a few weeks and either start editing that, or I'll do another book and then jump back to the other one and then edit it.
Nice. I like the concept of putting it away because it gives you fresh eyes to look at.
Right, yeah.
Super important. And we've got some people joining us today. We've got Nano Ninja 3330. Hey, Jake, good luck with the interview, bud. And I am sorry if I totally butchered that, friend. Thank you for jumping in to watch. So, and I'm terrible about checking comments during these sometimes. So you guys definitely drop comments, leave us questions if you're watching live, and even post show when you go back and watch it. You can leave us comments and tell us if you've read his books or my books. But let's go ahead and talk about some of these books. And I know today is a very special day for Strange World Grimoire, right?
Yes, it is the 1-year anniversary of the audiobook release of Strange World Grimoire. It's actually quite a coincidence that this is happening today. Didn't even mean it for it to be that way. But yeah, I released it 1 year ago today. The audiobook narrator is named Andrew Babb. He's a absolutely amazing narrator, and given the nature of the Strange World story, It's very humorous. There's a very lively, chaotic, absurd characters, and he does the voices amazing for every single character. The personalities are just absolutely spot on and different for everybody.
Ooh, that's how you know you've got a good narrator. Oh,
Yeah,
yes.
definitely.
So tell us more about this book. Tell us what happens, who the characters are, and maybe throw in where you got the inspiration for the story.
Okay, so the main character is named Daniel. He's a teenage boy, about 17, he gets diagnosed with a terminal illness. He's given 7 days to live, and he's spending the last days in the hospital. Um, so when he goes to sleep, he wakes up in a fantasy world, he ends up finding out it's called Strange World. Everything is there. Everything there is like Alice in Wonderland crazy, if not crazier. He learns of a magical wish there, an artifact that can grant a wish actually that transcends worlds. So he believes that he can save his life if he can get this artifact, grant the wish, and cure his illness. So he goes on a journey to find the artifact, and he meets a crazy cast of characters along the way, both good and bad. Also, some trying to find the box. Well, it's called the Golden Box of Hope. Um, some are trying to help him. Some are trying to find it for themselves and take over the world. And some of the crazy characters he meets is a humanoid dog boy named Pupper Dog Boy. He's a sorcerer. He meets a vampire bunny girl. He meets a living ball of hair named Shaggy, and a crazy bird girl with a sword named Pom Pom.
Ooh.
And the villains are everything from a bunch of pigmen to a pig king named Benjamin and a giant cow woman named Ma Burger. It ties in actually with his terminal illness for those who read the story.
Nice. Okay, I love the unique names and descriptions you've got going on for these characters. Where did that idea come from? Because that's like the one of the best, especially you said she was Mom Burger, the cow lady.
Ma Burger, yeah.
Yes, I love it. And your friend says, "Good old whimsical magical quest."
Yeah, the naming, a lot of the names came from things I throughout my life. Like Pupper Dog Boy actually was a nickname my great grandfather had for me when I was a little kid.
Yeah.
So that was just I was just like trying to think of a name for a dog, and that's popped in my head. I'm like, call him that. Um, the other characters, Hairball, Shaggy, and Ma Burger. I was just trying to think of something, that because she has a shotgun. I mean, she's kind of like uh very I don't want like Beverly Hillbillies kind of like thing.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
yeah, she's like a very crazy villainous character and pretty much the ultimate villain for that kind of storyline. And actually, she came from a game that's sort of like Dungeons and Dragons that I played a
Mhm.
long time ago called Gamma World, and she was a villain that we fought against in the game. But she wasn't named Ma Burger. She had a different name in the game, but that was the character we fought against. So I was like, I'm gonna use her and just give her a different name.
I love it. And the pupper dog man, that's cute. I like it because I that makes me. I'm a huge dog lover. As we were talking about before the show, we both have a bunch of dogs, and like they tend to be loud. So, but where did the inspiration for this story come from?
um, it actually came from back in 2015. I spent a month in the hospital. I actually had pancreatitis, and it was not a good experience to say the least. But I spent a month in the hospital, and I used a lot of experiences with from the because during the story I'll transition between Strange World and the hospital. I used a lot of experiences with myself, with what I went through in the hospital in those scenes,
Mhm.
and while I was in the hospital, I just thought of like a bunch of random things. I mean, it was I was on pain medicine, so it's kind of you think of weird things at that kind of situation, and those kind of stuck with me, and a lot of that came from that, honestly. Um, I wasn't able to write down notes at that time, but it did stick with me in my mind. And when I got home, one of the first things I did was start writing it down and started writing that story.
I think you are the second person, I've only can think of another person that I've interviewed that's actually told me that they came after having like the pain medication in their system, they created this storyline. And it's really fascinating the stuff you can create after being on that, because some of it can hit pretty hard. So,
Yeah.
and Nano Ninja says tabletop games can certainly pump out some interesting characters. That is true. I
Yes.
have met D&D is like the number one like board tabletop game that I've heard a lot of authors use as inspiration. But it's a great game.
Mm-hmm.
So, writing this story, you said you started writing it down after you got out of the hospital. How long did it take for you to finish?
I had to recover after recovering. It took a while for me to recover from the actual experience and actually come off the medication, because you do get addicted to that stuff when you're on the medicine for that long. So it took a few weeks before I could actually start writing. When I did start writing, I think it took me a couple, 2 or 3 months, I think, to actually finish the first draft.
Mm-hmm.
I did. I kind of just sat on it for a while, though. I didn't know what to do with it, and at the time, I had an agent, and I told her about it, and she liked it. So then I started editing it and trying to get it in shape. The agent thing ended up falling out, but eventually I did an I published it on Wattpad, which is a website I used to publish all my stories on, a free reading site, and a lot of people liked it on there. So I just was like, I'm going to publish this one day whenever I start publishing officially, which it was the third book technically that I published online on Amazon.
Yeah. So, what was the difference in publishing it on Wattpad versus going to KDP and Amazon? I've never got to pick anybody's brain on that, but this sounds like the perfect opportunity.
Well, on Wattpad, it was you get more feedback on Wattpad. My first story I published on there was Omega Virus, my zombie apocalypse story, gamers versus zombies, essentially. Um, I had when you publish on there, a lot of times the people read the stories, they'll leave comments every time you post a chapter. You get feedback right away, and you immediately it'll affect you. Like if like, oh, well, I should change this for the next chapter or the next book. And actually, that's why I've written 24 books, because when you get to the end of the book, people are like, I want the next book. I want the next book. So instead of editing at that point, I was like, okay, well, I'll just write the next book. And
Yeah.
next thing you know, I ended up with dozens of like two dozen books pretty much. And so that's when I say pipeline, I mean I'm editing those 2 dozen books at this point.
Nice.
So yeah, I'm publishing those as I go now. But the difference really is the feedback you get. You get instant feedback pretty much on Wattpad, and you don't get instant feedback on Amazon. Most people, I think, are either not lazy, but either afraid to leave reviews, or they just don't have time, because leaving reviews, it takes time to leave reviews on Amazon, and some people feel like they have to leave a lot more than just a line, and then there's the verified purchase thing. If you don't actually buy the book directly, and it's just all that kind of stuff. It's hard to leave reviews sometimes, so you don't get the feedback as easily.
Yeah, it's true. I like the websites that are a little bit easier to get. I mean, and some of them, they probably need to like watch what people are posting as reviews, because I know Amazon does have a lot of sticklers when it comes to it, but it's nice to just have those stars, even if you didn't finish not finish, even if you didn't write out all of the words, just hitting those 5 stars, 3 stars, anywhere like that helps us. I mean, writing a review would be nice too. What did you like about the book? What did you not like about the book? But I totally get that too, because a lot of readers, myself included, I have to go back later to add my review, because half the time I'll finish a book and it's like 3:00 in the morning and I'm like, I need sleep.
Right.
And another person has mortgage, or well, more. Yeah, wait. Okay, they say he's a machine. I'm like, More like 100 stars. I mean, if that was an option, send us some stars. Yeah. Um, but yeah, reviews are like a whole other thing. So,
Yeah,
that could be a whole show on its own.
yeah. Wattpad was great though. I mean, I had when I had all my books posted on there, I had over 2 million something reads.
Nice.
It was great, but you don't make money on Wattpad. I mean, you can if the Wattpad higher ups, you know, approve it, they can actually you can start making money, but most people don't go on there to pay for reading. It's for reading books for free, you know, so it's just really hard to make money on there.
Yeah, but it sounds like a good place to kind of get your name out there more,
Yeah,
uh,
definitely.
build a good following. So that's definitely something to consider, especially for newer authors starting out.
Yes, definitely. That's
Uh,
if it wasn't for Wattpad, I would not have 2 dozen books, so
yeah, that's true. So tell me more about the characters, your main character. What are some of his biggest challenges along the way besides kind of overcoming, hopefully, and finding a cure?
um a lot of it is trying to decide between helping himself and helping others
Mhm.
because he has to. I mean, you know, he has the illness, and then he learns of others. He learns he has to basically. It's up to him to try to save other people, his friends, and he makes in the other in Strange World, and and another friend in the real world he meets who has a similar illness, who's also sick. And
Right?
so it all comes down to, you know, like who he can help, like who he should help. And he wants to help his little sister, which is his main reason for wanting to stay alive. So it's just a giant struggle between who do I help?
Mm-hmm. Hmm. Man, that is crazy. So, with this story, you've got a couple other books out there. Do you have one that kind of stands out the most as maybe being your favorite book or the most fun to write?
Um, I would say I would say that the fan favorite from Wattpad was Omega Virus, but that is not published currently on on Amazon. It's in the remaster phase, as I'm calling it. I'm gonna republish that soon because I'm doing a new edit on it. But my personal favorite actually is the Dark Days series,
Ooh.
which is published on Amazon and Audible, and in a few other places. They pushed it out through one of the other websites, so it's probably on Barnes and Noble and stuff like that too. But it's basically it's a virtual reality lit RPG game. It's a dark fantasy, and essentially it's these a million players are trapped in a virtual reality game. They can't log out,
Mhm.
and if they die in the game, they die in real life. And as
Ooh.
the crazed hacker who wants the best gamer in the world to make it to the end of the game and defeat them, and that is basically and one player who is outside the game when this happens, he's cocky enough to think, "Oh, I can do that." So he logs into the game after the everyone's trapped to try to go into the game and save everybody. 1,000,001, that's right.
1,000,001. Gosh, that's intense. So I can definitely see that how that would be like kind of like a fan favorite. Um,
Mhm.
do you tie any Easter eggs or anything into that first book since it's part of a series?
Um, I tie Easter eggs in I tie Easter eggs throughout all my books for every book, actually. It's actually kind of a multiverse, if you want to call it that.
Yeah.
Like, I do have this, like, grand plan, which is gonna take a zillion years, but, you will see names from characters in Strange World and Dark Days, and in Omega Virus, you'll see names from other characters, and you'll say, "Wait a second, I thought I read this name in this book and that book." And it's all really tied together in this multiverse, which it is rewarding for readers, and eventually I will get there. You will find out why.
So it's connected and kind
Mhm,
of I could totally get that since you mentioned it being the multiverse. My brain automatically goes like to the MCU, which
mhm.
I mean, probably not the same thing, doesn't sound like it, but that's really cool. How many books do you have planned for the series?
Uh, on paper, I would say 50. So
Ooh.
technically halfway there.
Yeah.
With writing them, I'm halfway. Editing is a different story, but yeah.
Yeah. Editing takes a little more time than writing. I'm one of those, I like to get everything out and then the editing process starts. I feel like it takes, oh gosh, it's different for each book depending on how long it
Yeah.
is. But it takes time, especially to edit it good and get it done right.
Yeah, the editing it's a pain in the rear. That is it's great. I love editing, but it's also just a pain because it takes so long for each book. And yeah, some books is longer than others, and I've noticed that the later books are easier because they're you develop more skill as you go on. So later books actually you realize that, oh, I did better when I wrote this book compared to that book, which needs a total rewrite. But yeah, I'm planning 50 books. Ultimately, it's a six series, which will each have seven books,
Hmm.
and then one final series that ties them all into like one final 7 book series with a bonus book at the end. So that's like I think that should add up to 50. I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
I like that plan though, because that's putting it all together and making it work. And let's call it. It's hard not to make a connected universe. I've found it's too easy to get swept up in everything and forge fun connections. Yes, it is. I have to agree. I hate editing my own stuff. Yeah,
Mm.
it's important. I think it's good to go through your own stuff before sending it to the editor
Mhm.
because it gives you. I'm one of those like you want to send your best possible work to the editor. It's not going to be perfect. There's things they're going to catch, but that's the whole reason of using an editor is to catch a lot of what you don't see. Um, so you've got this series planned out and everything. You've been working on books, you've got them ready to go, just kind of like slowly pumping them out. How do you keep your sanity with staying on top of everything? Like how do you take care of yourself with self-care?
Um, Really, the way I de-stress and just like keep my sanity is through gaming, honestly. Both video games and tabletop gaming like Dungeons and Dragons and other games just like it. Um, Literally almost every night I'm playing either video games or Dungeons and Dragons or a similar game.
That's good. It's a good way to decompress and get rid of stress. We have some more comments from Nano Ninja. I hate editing my own stuff so much I get too bogged down myself. Yeah, I had the
Mm.
same. And Mortgage Mike 77. I'm going to get my brain to work today, guys. If I was a better self editor, I have avoided so many issues. I agree. I think kind of like all of us want to be better at self editing, but even if you take classes and stuff, there's still a high chance that you're going to miss stuff because your brain tends to plug
Mhm.
stuff in. Getting that other set of eyes on the manuscript is a huge help for anybody.
One way I've found to help with that is I use a website called Natural Reader.
Ooh,
It's a text to speech reader, and it basically just the AI voice. It'll read it back to you, and you
yeah.
just listen to it, and you'll hear things. You'll hear the errors in the voices, so you
Hmm.
can just like pop into your text. Like don't read your text as you're listening. Just listen to it, and you'll hear it. So then pop into your text, fix whatever, go back to listening, and just
Ooh,
keep going back and forth, and you'll find things you never even realized you had in there.
that's a great tip because I know there's a few, I want to say Microsoft Word has an optional read back, but don't quote me on that because I've never used it. Because I will write in either Microsoft Word or Google Docs. Those are my two
Mhm.
go to things. And we've got, my foot seems to seek out the flaming bag of dog poo. Oh my gosh. So when it comes to picking covers and having them created, have you stuck with the same artist so far with your work?
Yeah, actually, my wife is the artist for the cover artist for my books. Yeah, she's done all the graphic design work.
Score! That saves you money. Yes.
Definitely, yes.
Oh
It
my
definitely
god.
has, yeah.
Covers can be so expensive, especially if you have to do the super customized ones.
No, I just need my daughter to grow up to be an editor and everything be perfect.
Yeah, that would. I mean, maybe she'll go into writing too, though.
Oh, that'd be great. That'd be amazing. She's already trying to copy me in so many ways, so maybe who knows?
Knock on wood. She's still young, so
Hmm.
wow. And speaking of family, are they pretty supportive of your writing career? Like, do you let them? Well, I get your daughter's, she's still young, not there yet, but what is your wife? Does she provide feedback and stuff? Does she read the manuscripts?
Yeah, she's read some of them, but I mean, I've got so many that it's like expecting anybody to read them all is like expecting like a miracle. But she's read some of them. She loves Strange World. That's her favorite one of all of them. But she does give me feedback, and she does love my writing. She does give support. For a while, she was helping me with editing, but her own work is pretty demanding, so it takes up a lot of her time. So
Yeah.
it's pretty much just helping with the book covers. But yeah, she's very supportive. And my daughter's always like, my now that my daughter's starting to understand that writing is my job, she's actually starting to give me the time to sit down and write. Before she was always trying like bugging me when I was trying to write, and now she's like, Okay, Dada, you go write."
Oh, that is precious and that is so good. It's hard for them to get like to that point. My son just reached that point and I'm
Hmm.
still using his Kindle or something distractive to be on the safe side. So,
Hmm.
yes, score. Oh, yes. Um with writing, when did you first discover that's what you wanted to do?
Um, the first time I ever wrote anything creative was way back when I was a little kid. I think I don't know, it was whenever the Goosebumps books were coming out. There was a there was one book, I think it was Monster Blood 2. I did not like the ending, so I on the next page I like rewrote the ending and just in pencil on the on the one of those little blank pages in the back of the book. I rewrote the ending. And that was the
Oh,
first creative thing I ever did. And years later, I started writing short stories. I realized, hey, I can write my own stories. So I
yeah.
just had all these ideas just suddenly because I read all these great horror novels like Goosebumps and sci-fi books like Animorphs. I loved all that stuff. So I would just write short stories in notebooks, and that evolved into bigger notebooks and novellas, and got my own computer, and it started turning into super long books, and eventually got to high school, and it was like full length novels in notebooks, and college actual novels.
Ooh. Yes, we've got a few more comments. Nice. She does a great job talking about your wife on the covers. And then fan fiction of some kind seems to be the origin of a lot of us, lol. Which is true. A lot of people have written fan fiction. I can't say I have because I never have. But there are a ton of authors that have started with fan fiction.
Yeah, I
What?
used to write Resident Evil fan fiction. That was
Oh,
my first short stories.
nice. That's intense. And I'm going to try to ignore my cat. I don't know if you guys can hear him. He's going to probably sit there and meow for a little bit, but he should hopefully go away. What has been one of the biggest challenges that you've faced in this writing journey?
um the biggest challenge was when I was trying to when I was trying to find a publish like a well an agent. I was trying to find an agent, and I was so dead set on that. I was so like trying so hard. I was sending out my manuscript to agent after agent after agent, either rejection after rejection, or just nothing at all. I sent my first book to an editor once. I paid like I don't know, like a couple $100, and she sent it back like covered in red and said, "Give up being a writer." Like she wrote that in big red letters across the thing, and that
Rude.
was like, yeah, and that actually caused me to stop writing for a few years. I was like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I just got that. So I gave up writing for a few years, and thankfully, I don't remember what started it again, but I picked it back up. I started writing again. I was like, forget that. I'm gonna keep writing. But I tried to find an agent. Didn't work. I mean, eventually I did get an agent through someone I knew, and even then, finding a publisher didn't happen. So at that point, I was like, you know what? I'm done. And then I learned about self publishing, and I'm like, I'm gonna try that instead. And then I realized and then well, first I learned all the caveats of, like, even if you have a publisher, you still have to do your own advertisements and stuff like that. So it's like, really, having a publisher is not as great as it sounds, from what I've been told, from especially people who have their own publisher or have a publisher and editors and all that. Like, sure, like a little bit gets done, but it's not worth it from what I've heard. And so now I'm just like, I would rather self-publish, have complete control of everything on my own. And if I sell a million books, great. If I don't, at least I have control and I don't have to stress out about, doing everything and changing everything to be directly how they want,
Yeah, that was one of the things, because I mentioned being at ReaderCon all weekend was very heavily supportive of everybody, like pitching to agents and stuff and traditional publishing there. There were very few indies there, but some of the actually majority of the contest winners that submitted manuscripts and stuff were indie authors. And it was just one of my things that I suggested for them to change in the future is to dive more into the indie author spot, or indie author side of publishing, because we're rising up. We're starting to overcome all the authors that are traditionally published. And I'm like, that needs to be recognized. And we've got a couple comments, so I'm going to scroll back here talking about the kitty. And this was about the agent, which was evil. Yes, they could have at least said keep practicing, not give up. That's rude, straight up. You've stamped the okay. There's chatting. I still can't believe someone can be that cruel. People being horrible to new writers sucks so much. It really does. Yeah. Self-publishing all the way. Yeah. And I mean, I guess I'm kind of a hybrid, because some of my short stories have been picked up by smaller presses, but most of them are like the small presses are indie presses. And I feel like there's more of those popping up, kind of working with indie authors, letting them keep control of stuff. And it's nice to see out there. Down with all the overlords. Yes. Yes. We're kind of past our time here, but what is something, Jake, that you would like to put out there for inspired writers who are working to publish? What kind of advice would you have for them?
I think I'll leave it with a quote about how people should treat others. One of my favorite quotes is actually from a video game called Remnant. There's one character, the two characters are talking, and one says, "Why are you so kind to others?" And then the guy says, "Well, because the rest of the world isn't."
Well, that is a good quote.
And that's one of my favorite quotes, because you really should be kind to everybody.
Yeah.
Because so many people out there just aren't kind, and it just, especially fellow writers, and if you're kind to everybody, but especially if you're in the same, pool of people, don't try to compete against each other or be like cruel to other writers. They aren't your enemies; they're your friends.
Yes, and that's when you find those people that help. They build each other up. I'm thankful for the group I have, because being part of a group of writers that builds each other up, that builds promotes their work, your friends' works, and it's just huge change. True that. Yes. Don't be haters, guys. For real. Support. Nobody is out to get you. Jake's encouraged me to write many times and is always inspirational. Love you, bud. That is awesome, because that's one of those things that's an author, you're like, yes, this is, if I don't get anything else in life, I will take this. You've inspired somebody. Well, Jake, it has been amazing having you on today. Go ahead and tell our listeners and viewers where they can grab copies of your book and where you're at on socials.
You can find my books on Amazon and Audible. You can also find my books pretty much anywhere they sell books, ebooks online, Barnes and Noble online, iTunes, all that kind of stuff. Just search J.K. Strife, you'll find stuff. For social, I don't do social media too much, but you can I have a YouTube channel, author J.K. Strife, but it's mostly video game stuff at the moment, but I will get to author stuff soon. I have a website, it's jake-a-strife.com. And Just search JK Strife. You'll find me anywhere.
Nice.
There's not a lot of people named JK Strife.
Yes, and I have a link to your website in the description on here if you guys are watching on YouTube. If you're watching on Facebook, I think it's in the I think it's above the video. I'd have to look. And then I've got another comment here from Eric Gary. I got the honor of being a character in one of Jake's books. That's awesome. Super awesome. But again, guys, thank you so much for joining us, for watching. Hit that like button, subscribe if you haven't. If you're watching on Facebook, hit like, share our video. Let's get Jake out there in front of more viewers, myself included. We have lots of stuff on here on a regular basis. I'm live pretty much every Wednesday. And also check out the other channel I help out with a lot. Fall season is kicking off, and Go Indie Now has a lineup that is insanely full of fantastic shows for all creatives, from writers to singers to script writers, screenplays, you name it. But all right, guys, have a fantastic rest of the day, and we'll see you next time, guys.
Thanks, everybody.
I hope you enjoyed the show. Don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to get future notifications when shows come out. Also, be sure to check out my website. I have a blog featuring this creative with some other fun and interesting questions. You can also subscribe to my newsletter there to stay up to date with all things the Chapter Goddess in Madeline Dale. Once again, thanks for watching and have a great rest of the day.